Welcome to Encounter, where we celebrate putting faith into action and community leaders who live out compassion, grace, and love. We're a program of the Broome County Council of Churches that addresses food insecurity through CHOW and the Greater Good Grocery, provides hospital and jail ministry, builds wheelchair ramps, and assists neighbors with transportation and shopping services through Faith in Action volunteers. We invite you to the conversation. Encounter your neighbors as we learn to walk together in love and kindness. Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of Encounter. I'm Jeff Kellam, Parish Associate at the Union Presbyterian Church in Endicott. And obviously, we're not in the studio today. This is my own production space. This is where I record a radio program each week called Classic Vinyl Jazz. And it's played on the radio station that's part of the Bundy Museum of History and Art in Binghamton. I also, with my colleague, the Reverend Bill Carter, record a podcast called The Spirit of Jazz, where we talk about the link between jazz and spirituality. Today, Bill and I are going to do a Zoom conversation, and it's going to be about his most recent music, a CD called Brand New Day. And then I'll share a video podcast that we did that takes you into the recording studio in the Poconos, where Bill and the Presbybop Quintet recorded A Brand New Day. So yes, today a little bit different, but nonetheless, or all the more, encountering the intersection of faith and contemporary music. We've talked before on the Encounter program about the dotted line between the sacred and the secular, especially when it comes to music. Can you kind of reiterate what that dotted line means?
Well, certainly. There's some who want to parse out life into different categories and have a double line between them and say this part belongs to God and this part does not.
Yeah.
But the 24th Psalm says, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So why not have everything conceivably belonging to God, or at least offered to God? For me, that's been really important in thinking through my own story as a pastor who plays jazz, because I thought they were two different spheres, but there's no separation. There's no separation. And people say, well, you must do that on your time off. Well, no. I think part of the spiritual life is integrating our various interests and abilities all to the glory of God. And for me, that has included the composing and performing of jazz. Mm-hmm. And so that's my take on it. There's not a sacred and a secular. And if there is, it's a dotted line.
Yeah. So in composing a song, mm-hmm. In any genre, simply putting some sort of religious sounding title on it doesn't necessarily make it a religious piece.
No.
If you were to record any piece and then say, I'm Walking with the Lord would be the name of the title, that doesn't make it a sacred piece. So as you write music and you come up with the titles, where do those titles come from?
Sometimes they just have to settle in. I will occasionally write a piece with a title in mind. Celestia is one on the new recording. And that began with a road sign. I was on my way to a weekend preaching gig in the mountains of Pennsylvania, a little town called Eaglesmere. And somewhere between LaPorte and Eaglesmere, there's a sign that said Celestia. And one time I just pulled over to see it because that sounded like a religious name. And indeed, it was a utopian community that was formed by some preacher in the aftermath of the great disappointment of the 1800s, when some guy predicted Jesus would come back. So everybody sold their houses, and then they all kind of got together on a mountaintop, and then Jesus didn't keep the appointment, probably because he didn't make it. And so they said, oh, let's reset the date. And then that didn't work. They reset the date. And every time the participants got fewer and fewer. And apparently some wandered up to the hills of Pennsylvania in the Endless Mountains. Got this plot of land, named it Celestia, it was like heaven on earth. And it began okay, but began to also come untangled because it's kind of like Noah and the ark. Noah and his kids and family get on the ship, and when the storm is over and the water recedes, they get off the ship, and the world has restarted with them, and they are flawed, which is why the book of Genesis says, and Noah got drunk. So, so the same thing kind of happened at Celestia. These people kind of brought their worst habits in the most pious of guys. And in time, the county up there had not been paid for taxes because the people in the community, Celestia, had deeded the property to Jesus Christ, and Jesus had not paid the taxes. And so the county called it in, and the whole thing, once and for all, kind of fell apart. So I thought, let's start with this beautiful sounding piece that then at the end comes unraveled.
Ah,
So that was the inspiration.
yeah. So the tune is that the one that's kind of difficult to play? I mean, the players are kind of at sixes and sevens as they rehearse.
No, it was more. I had to convince them that the beginning of the tune is pretty, and it's okay to goof it up and play some things at the end. They could have gotten a little fiercer than they actually did.
Right. Well, in
Um,
a live performance, that might actually happen.
right, that's right.
Yeah. So, and there's another wonderful song that uses the Orthodox view of grief.
Ah, ha, ha. Well, it's not grief, but joy.
Oh, okay.
And for me, it's an expression of grief. So the phrase is bright sorrow. And Orthodox theologians have spoken of that as the true character of joy.
Mhm.
And in doing that, they distinguish joy from happiness. Happiness is situational. Something happens, the sun comes out, the flowers come up,
Yeah.
your kids call you on a Sunday night, you're happy. Joy is what gets you through. It's really the engine that drives the car,
Mhm.
even when life is difficult or painful. So I knew I wanted to write an elegy to uh, to honor Al Hom, my college professor, my bandmate, my dear friend who passed a couple of years ago. And so I had this piece kind of cooking for a while. I couldn't quite figure out the form, but I knew the title. It would
Yeah.
be Bright Sorrow. And it kind of alternates between kind of a lament and some resolution, but it never totally gives into the resolution and never abandons the lament. So I just wanted to create something that was beautiful in this kind of unusual way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know it's difficult. It's like saying which of your kids is your favorite, but of the songs on the new CD, what do you enjoy playing the most?
I think my favorite, really, if I have to pick a favorite child, is the one that is the hardest to play, and that's the last one on the album. It's called Ahead of the Curve. Ahead of the Curve. Um, the tune has been lingering around since I think in my sketchbook I wrote it down in 2009, but it just never really seemed to be fully baked from the oven.
Mhm.
And then I began to work on it last winter, or actually last fall, and in the winter it came together. Gave it to the guys. They said, "Well, this section after the solos, this is pretty challenging." I said, "Yep, and you're up for it." So ahead of the curve. It's in 6/8. A lot of my recordings have almost a jig on them. It's, one of the guys said, "Oh, this is the Celtic tune." I said, "Well, kind of."
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. You were at the Firehouse stage to debut the music of the album several weeks ago, and the place was sold out, and a wonderful reception from folks. There's quite a fan base here in the Binghamton area, and so congratulations on that. And selling
Well,
out
thank
the
you.
house.
Yeah, my high school music teacher was there, John Harper of Owego, New York.
Wonderful.
He
That's
kind of looked at me and just shook his head.
right, right. Well, thank you for helping us have an intro. Now we're going to look at a documentary called "The Making of This Album," which is a brand new day, and so thank you for helping provide the prologue for that. So,
Well, and thank you for telling the story of the making of the album and doing it so well.
well, that certainly was a pleasure to work on. I did before.
The Spirit of Jazz podcast, where music dances with mystery, with your hosts, Bill Carter and Jeff Kellam.
Hey, it's Bill Carter. Welcome to this very special podcast where we're talking about the making of Brand New Day.
I'm Jeff Kellam, and I'm going to be posing some questions to Bill about, how this whole CD and, well, not just CD these days, Bill, but streaming and
Download files, absolutely.
Yep. So let's begin with the very beginning of this inspiration for this music, for this CD, Brand New Day. The music comes from the heart and from the mind, and then winds up being notes on paper. Describe that process quickly.
Oh, it's notes on paper to become notes in the air.
Yes.
Well, it's a long process for me. Some tunes come rather quickly, and some come in a burst, and then they need to perk for a while. So let's take kind of the central tune of this, Eighth Day. It began actually as Seventh Day in 2000, I think was the year. It was an improvisation to kind of set up another tune on our Dancing Day album. And I thought, let's go revisit that and take it forward. So I came up with 7 notes and then thought, what comes next? So, and the notes look like this. And then after a while, I flesh it out and begin to think, what else might go with it? And so I come up with a basic accompaniment. And then after that, I need to chart out the arrangement. So I'll take a big piece of manuscript paper and I'll kind of do this, where I kind of figure out from beginning to end, how is it going to go? And then from there, I begin to put it on the computer, orchestrate it, figure out which horn gets what line, what counter lines need to come from the bass or the drum rhythms. And it develops for a while. This is Eighth Day. There's that 7-bar phrase. The fun always happens on the 8th day of creation.
This is all in your imagination because you don't play saxophone, you don't play the drums. Maybe you've tried, but so you're hearing this in your mind and imagining what these instruments would sound like.
Well, that's right. And it helps to play regularly with musicians because I get to know a little bit about their personalities, the range that their notes will sound best in, and try to think, in terms of the putting together of the different layers of instruments, who plays what, when, and all of that. So that's the process.
Do with your toe, 1616. Like, no, mine is a letter D, right?
I would imagine so. Yes.
Tell me what's happening.
We're going to start with the downbeat. We're going to start with 420 Years, which is a gentle jazz tune, and I think it's going to be easy as a preliminary piece to get us going.
we'll talk a little bit about the band in just a minute, but let's talk about how many songs make up a CD release, and how you decide which songs you're going to use that you've composed recently.
Well, it's always work in progress in terms of which songs. I try to have a kind of enough of a collection, and I figure our performances are about 6 minutes long, and I wouldn't want to listen to an album longer than an hour, and even then, maybe less. So that's about 10 tunes. I had 9 ready, and then a 10th, I thought a couple days before the session, let me try to add that. And then you have to think through the sequence, what comes when. And it's provisional in that you might have some initial ideas, but it's going to take the actual production of the album to begin to think through the sequence. You think of the album as a journey, as a narrative journey. It's a story. It starts somewhere, it goes somewhere else, and how do you proceed through? And I learned this from the great late Al Ham in terms of how to put together a set of music. You don't do like 10 fast songs in a row.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to pace them, put them in different keys, different rhythmic backgrounds, different moods, and that's how it proceeds.
Let's talk about the band. You've been playing, you mentioned that you've played with these guys before, so you know kind of what to expect from their instruments. Tell us about the band members.
Well, it's a wonderful group. We travel as a quintet when we're able, quartet if we must. Tony Marino has been with us the longest. He is an outstanding bass player, virtuoso, just an excellent person to be around, positive, fun, kind of quiet and reflective. Ron Vincent joined us in 2004, and he has a great track record as a musician, as a drummer in the New York kind of group of musicians. He's a pip. He's got a great attitude. He's wonderful to travel with. Reads real well. Has kind of a strong personality, which affects our music in positive ways.
What's it like working with these guys?
It's great. Bunch of nice people. They like to laugh. And they're all good musicians.
That makes sense. You
know?
And what about the music?
The music's great. Bill always writes great, interesting stuff. Very different.
Yeah.
Really enjoyable. I think I've been playing with them for 20 years now.
Man.
Usually I get fired after the first gig. Bill's been keeping me around.
Mike Carbone, I've known the longest. Well, we first met in 1978, an all-state jazz ensemble in Syracuse. He's a couple years older than me. He was in college at the time. I was a senior in high school. And he showed up in Binghamton University some years later when I was finishing up as a student, and we've kept in touch ever since. Then Jeff Stockham, who is a multi-instrumentalist, flugelhorn, trumpet, French horn, which was his major at Eastman School of Music. He's just sassy. He comes with both a mellow heart, but kind of a sense of like, I'm going to get in your face when I need to. And intensely creative guy.
Yeah. So these guys, you were able to get them together on a particular date to go into the studio. That must have been kind of a scheduling issue.
It always is. The trick is to book it long enough in advance. And for us, I think I set up the date probably in August. And we recorded on the 3rd of January, single day. We had kept January 6th also open in case we needed it. That's because the weather in our part of the world is unpredictable.
Yeah.
And we wanted to make sure everybody could get there. And it was then shortly after that, people were kind of going all over the place. Ron was going to play some concerts in California. Jeff was going to head down to Florida to escape the winter. So the date just fit.
So they got there. Let's talk about where there is, because that's a really important part of a recording process is deciding where you're going to record it.
Well, it was not much of a decision at all. We went to Red Rock Studios. They are located in the Poconos, a little town of Saylorsburg. Kent Heckman is an outstanding recording engineer, and he's quick. Tony had warned me about that first time we worked with him about 13 years ago. He said, wow, watch this. And we put down our album, which was at that point Interior Window. We laid down all the tunes. I said to him as we're binding up, now, when do I need to come back and we'll mix and master? He said, oh, I was doing that on the way. And he hands me a finished disc. Blew me away.
Yep, yep. So he's a master of the electronics, but he also has an ear for the music. So
he is. And he has recorded a lot of the greats. He recorded Phil Woods and his various ensembles. He's done Nellie McKay, who is kind of a novelty singer who plays with a lot of the jazz cats. And most notably, I think, Keith Jarrett with his trio at the nearby Deerhead Inn.
yeah, yeah. So that made for a fairly comfortable day because you know who's in the booth, you know the musicians, and the process went really quickly. How many takes did you do of each of the tracks?
I think one of the tunes we might have done 2 takes, a couple of them. Most of them were single takes. And because it's all electronic, using digital media, it's easier to edit and clean up. At one point, for instance, the guys were playing through a tune and we heard it back. I said, well, the piano player hit the wrong chord in one section. We isolated that section. Went back, listened, and they didn't hear it, but I did, and I knew every time I would hear that tune, I would hear that wrong chord. And Kent said, well, just a second. Hit a button, hit another button. All of a sudden, the chord is spelled out visually on the computer screen. He takes out what he thought were a couple of the wrong notes, and it suddenly sounded better.
Wow, wow.
Unbelievable.
Yep. So the day went pretty well. Then you did go back with Mike Carbone to spend a little bit of time there, just tweaking here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Then when Kent hands you the kind of master disc, you send it off, and
well, kind of. He hands me a disc and it's mastered, but he waits to what I say, if it's ready to go. And then he goes back to the computer, hits a couple of buttons, and literally emails all the tracks to Disc Makers, which is the manufacturer. Which, again, blows my mind. It's no longer FedEx. It's just a good email connection.
Yep. And how long did it take then for the process to bring a box to your door?
Well, the box just showed up. And it was 5 weeks to the day from when we first recorded the album.
Wow. Well, and it's not only available on CD, but what are the other ways,
Well, the best portal is our website, presbybop.com, presbybop.com. That'll take you to either you can purchase it from our website, you can purchase it from Bandcamp, bandcamp.presbybop.com, and you can also get it as a download both from our website or from Bandcamp. And if you poke around, there are other media outlets out there too, Amazon Music, Apple Music and such. But if you want to support the musicians, the best way to do it is directly from them. And our 2 sites are presbybop.com and Bandcamp.
This week on Encounter, we've been talking with the Reverend Bill Carter, pastor of the First Presbyterian Church in Clark Summit, Pennsylvania, about his new jazz CD called A Brand New Day. For more information about the Reverend Bill Carter and Presbybop music, check out the Presbybop Jazz website at www.presbybop.com. That's PRESBYBOP.com. And to hear the Spirit of Jazz podcast Bill and I co-host, we can find all the episodes there at presbybop.com, or as they say, wherever podcasts are found. Oh, and Bill Carter's latest book is worth a look too. It's called Thriving on a Riff, Jazz and the Spiritual Life. If all this conversation about jazz and religious expression remains a mystery to you, the book will be very helpful. Again, it's titled Thriving on a Riff, Jazz and the Spiritual Life. The tune you're listening to, by the way, is called On a Summer's Day from Bill's new CD, Flute Solos by Mike Carbone. Thanks for joining us for this week's Encounter program, produced in cooperation with the Broome County Council of Churches, with thanks to WBNG-TV and to the Town Square Media radio stations who carry the audio portion of our program each week. Until next week, this is Jeff Kellam, Parish Associate at Endicott's Union Presbyterian Church, inviting you to always summon up the patience and the courage to be gentle with people and with yourself.